Don't make me cry. It's a tremendous amount of gratitude for that. And it was hard. There was a lot of very hard, very lean times. And there was a lot of anxiety.
This is Roberto Blake. He makes over $250,000 annually teaching you how to create something awesome every day. Roberto became a freelance creative when he realized that he had minimal opportunities for steady pay from the 2007 recession, and has gone on quite a bumpy journey to create a recognizable brand with over 600,000 subscribers with matching income that allows for him to have financial freedom for him and his extended family. In this episode, we're going to talk about how the Amazon affiliate program showed him how he could make rent money, the logistical steps that all creators should take to protect their money and assets, the emotional journey of being able to hire his mom and his siblings, his biggest partnership that has paid him over $500,000, and how you can build long-term brand partnerships too. Roberto holds nothing back with his open book approach to how he makes money, giving you a crash course on how you can make money on YouTube. Becoming a full-time YouTuber is the dream, but how can you financially get there? Welcome to The Funded YouTuber, where we sit down with successful YouTubers to dive headfirst into the money-making side of being a full-time YouTuber and creator. We will be breaking down their paths to full-time income, sharing struggles, exposing their victories, and literally mapping out their income streams, how they got them, and what they are working on next. The Funded YouTuber is brought to you by GigaStar. Inspired by YouTubers like you with the vision to fuel human creativity, GigaStar brings creators and investors together. Roberto, welcome to The Funded YouTuber. I'm so pumped to have a conversation with you. You and I have been friends for years, and you and I have talked extensively about money, and I cannot wait to make this a public, organized conversation for the people.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. First and foremost, what do you create on the internet?
Oh, well, that's an excellent question. I create educational content that helps other content creators increase their reach, increase their reputation, and increase their revenue. And so that's primarily done on my YouTube channel, where I've done 1,600 videos.
What are the circumstances that led you to creating?
Being a full-time freelancer, I mean, I've been creating since the beginning of YouTube. For example, I tried to do YouTube with my friends in 2006. That didn't really work out. So I did my own solo channel in 2009, but I barely uploaded for like 4 years. Then in 2013, full-time freelancer, was creating on the side, using it also to kind of showcase skills, because I understood this concept of building a personal brand. At the time, I was like, well, if I showcase and teach some people how to do certain things that helped me have a career, that'd be great. But at the same time, maybe there is a opportunity to where people will try to do some of these things on their own and say, you know what? I suck at this. I don't feel like doing it on my own. I'm just going to pay this guy to do it. And that kind of worked out.
Let's go back to the old days, the beginning times for you when you were trying to figure out what working for yourself was, what being a full-time creator was. When was your first taste of income that showed you that being full-time as a creator, like solo as a YouTuber, was possible?
Probably the Amazon affiliate program, because like AdSense wasn't paying me much. And then when I was a small creator, I got into a thing called a multi-channel network, an MCN, what we call a multi-channel network. Those all turned out to be scams. They were like, they make all these promises, the small YouTubers, where they tell you, oh, we're going to help you get collaborations with all the big YouTubers on our network. Here's our roster. And the thing is, they kind of suckered these big YouTubers, because at the time, we didn't know as small YouTubers back in the old days that the way a lot of these bigger YouTubers got to be full-time is they weren't making money off their ads or brand deals yet to be full-time either. A lot of them actually worked as employees for multi-channel networks and were recruiting. They were big YouTubers, but they weren't making big money. And to make it stable and for them to have a salary, a lot of them were working for these multi-channel networks, and we didn't know that. Some of them had equity deals in these multi-channel networks. And so we had all these big YouTubers pushed in front of us saying, don't you want to be part of the same network as your favorite creator and all this? And so they were taking 50% of the little bit of AdSense money I was making anyway. And so I was in a bad contract like that. They make you sign 2 and 3 year contracts. So I was making almost nothing off AdSense. I was making like $300 a month. I started making rent money with the Amazon affiliate program, though. Now, this is North Carolina, middle of nowhere rent money. So, don't get too excited. It was enough. It was like, first month on Amazon, I made $12, but second month on Amazon, I made $500. Within 6 months, I figured out how to make about, $1,000 to $1,500 a month on average with the Amazon affiliate program. That's not what it used to be. But that was that first taste of like, oh, now the content from doing some of the tech review stuff, because I started moving into like Tech Tuesday content at a certain point, it was like, oh, well, now that's making me rent money directly off of this besides my clients. So I was like, okay, that's like, this is real.
I'm very curious about the MCN world for you. I love that your breakdown about how they were taking advantage of people and things like that. What was the appeal to that in the original time for you that made you think that it was a good idea?
They sales pitch you in different ways. They figure out what would be interesting or appealing like to you at the time. For me, they made like an appeal because you know, they one intro point they used for me was because my family's Panamanian, so we're Caribbean Latinos. Like, oh yeah, and the owners are Latinos too, and da 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 da. So they kind of used that as like a conversation point. Then they went into, oh, look, they went into showing case studies of all these big creators and the brand deals that they got for them, and then are
Mhm.
saying, we kind of offer up our roster to these brands. And so, when we get somebody who's a larger creator gets a deal and everything like that, there's the opportunity to include and kind of bulk sell the stuff. And since I came from a marketing background, I was familiar with ad buying. That sounded right to me that like, oh, you can, have this inventory go further across more properties, more placements. So like from the old days of ad buying where you go, hey, I want to buy a billboard, downtown, but it's like, okay, yeah. And in the bundle, we'll include some placements for you in signage in the strip malls and everything like that. If you go with another 20%, oh, okay. Like I remember this from media buying. So it sounded right. It sounded
Mm.
good and it made sense. And then the other thing was they promised back end help with other aspects of content creation. Me, I felt very confident in what I was doing and my understanding, but it's like one of those, you don't know what you don't know. And it like, it sounds like, oh, they made it seem like they helped grow these big creators versus these creators doing on their own. So they, while not saying it directly or outright, they implied and inferred those things. And so that's an enticement of, oh, is this the secret sauce? Is it that these people, it's who they know and not what they know? So they kind of string you along like that. And the whole thing
Mhm.
ends up essentially being this exploited pyramid scheme where because they have a roster of a lot of these small creators and they're taking like 50 or 30% from them, but then with their larger creators they're like taking 10% or 0%. The allure is, well, they might be able to hook me up with these bigger creators, or when they do an event they might get included, or they can introduce me or whatever because we're part of the same thing. It's kind of like the idea of if you go out to Hollywood to be an actor or actress where you're like, oh, I have the same agent as so and so.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's a good track for it. Do you think that MCNs still have a place in the YouTube creator world? What are some of the brands that you think are actually worth their time?
I don't know that I can speak to any MCNs that are like legitimate because like the minute I say any one of them in another year, they'll have a scandal and go under, right?
Yeah,
So
fair.
I don't want to do that. I generally would advise creators that live in English speaking Western territories to avoid MCNs altogether. The place that they have is that not every country is monetizable in the YouTube partner program, unfortunately. So
Mm,
for foreign creators, internationals, their countries, they're not bankable, they're unbanked in some way that doesn't allow for the direct deposit stuff. So the thing is, the MCN then acts as an intermediary and can pay them out via PayPal, Venmo, or some other payment processor, and they'll take a little bit of an extra fee. But it's the only way those creators can get their money from YouTube as a platform because of the limitations of monetization for certain countries. So there's countries where those creators have to do it. There's other there's other situations where for some of those creators, it's the only way that they can get any support because the financial situation in their country, even if they're making some money, it's not equivalent to the US, which means when there's services that we enjoy here in the US or software access or something like that, they'll kind of bundle some of those things for like subscription models and say, hey, we'll get you a subscription for your B-roll, we'll get you a subscription for TubeBuddy, we'll get you a subscription for this audio thing so you can have royalty-free music, because these creators in these other countries, in addition to being small creators, really can't afford access to these competitive resources. So they'll say, hey, you don't have to pay anything up front, but we're taking a little bit of money off the top. So since they don't have to come out of pocket, but they get to make better content, that's appealing to them for that reason.
I could see where the appeal would be. Like, I love how you broke it down by like countries and language so that we could better understand it, and also how they act as the intermediary and how I think the idea of someone else like having control of my money first sounds like a big red flag to me. So I think that's a great breakdown. So what were the circumstances that allowed for you to go full time as a YouTuber?
Being a full-time freelancer first. I absolutely think that rather than leaving your day job and then saying, oh, I'm going to do content creation, I feel like becoming a one-person business is a better bridge to that. Now, not everyone has that capacity, but it will be a better thing if you're a content creator that's, let's say, in their late 20s or in their 30s or 40s, and you've had some work experience and background. It's better to become a one-person business and then launch your creator career as the side hustle along the one-person business when leaving your job. Because the reason I say that is I think for someone who's had a career, it's easier to take your skills and parlay that into a one person business. And I think between your work experience and running a one person business, you develop the skills that would make you less of a struggle bus creator starting out. Because since I had to run my own one person business, I had to build and develop a personal professional brand, which means I had a website, I had a professional email address, I understood SEO, I understood marketing myself. I already was a graphic designer, and I was also doing video editing and photography for other people, which translated to by the time I started taking content creation seriously, I already had competitive level skills at everything that YouTube asks of you. You have to do graphic design to make the thumbnails for YouTube to a degree, photography to do that as well, video production, video editing. I was a creative services guy doing, freelance work for clients. I'm literally just having to take the same skill set to apply it to YouTube at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, and then also, even with doing client services, when you have to negotiate sponsored content and brand deals, I knew and understood my contracts better than every other small creator, at least on the sponsor side, not on the MCN thing, because I had dealt with negotiating my rates before. So I wasn't green to that. That's why I'm able to teach so many people this now, because I haven't just done this as a creator. I've been negotiating my own rates and contracts before that for a very long time for larger amounts of money than most creators were used to.
Since you've been a YouTuber for so long, at this point, you have had to offload some of these tasks so that you can have more income producing activities. What have you done to do that? And I know that you have like a personal touch to this personally that has helped you as well. So talk about what that success story has been like.
Well, on the YouTube side, unfortunately, due to like the pandemic kiboshing plans I had on the YouTube creator side, I'm still a solo content creator, even with 600,000 subscribers, still doing every thumbnail, all the video editing, all the production, all of that. So on that side, I'm still a solo creator. The business overall, between the creating, the coaching, the products, the brand deals, all of it has let me do is it's let me actually hire my family part-time to work with me. And I've been able to, one, supplement some extra income for them. I actually was able to buy this house here in Georgia. I was able to do a lot of things. And so on the other end of like my business ventures, my sister helps as admin and does personal assistant work. I hired my friend Andy Rivera in New York. She's great. She is co-instructor in Awesome Creator Academy and everything. I hired my mother to be a property manager for me for running a lot of, and also general manager to run legal and admin stuff that has to do with anything with managing the property, especially since I travel so much. So there's that. My youngest sister is like, she just graduated, but she's actually going to go and do more schooling, and she's also going to travel abroad. She, on occasion, will do some back end work for me or even help with additional things with photography and B-roll. Everyone in my family has creative talent and ability. So literally, if I put one of my fancy cameras in anyone's hands, I'll get good stuff out of it. When I need B-roll, when I need my press photos, my sisters have shot all of my press photos. A lot of people do not realize that. My sisters, I hire a quote unquote professional photographer. It's like, no, we all have artistic talent here. And I have the best camera gear known to man for as expensive as it is. So with very little art direction and almost like just instinctive training, and me just dialing in the settings for them, they take all of the press photos for my marketing, my website. We did the photo shoots for the 200 photos I use for my thumbnails, all of that. So yeah, that's what it's let me do is it's like helped me have that, just a little bit of extra help. Even with my brother actually helps a lot with when I'm doing major changes and build outs. Like, for example, we're doing an art studio in my basement that gives me like 6 new set pieces. And like he helped me put all of that together and everything like that. So we just like, sat there and just brute forced everything and, did all the cable management, the wiring, did all this like stuff in the studio in the basement. So it's great getting to work with family. A lot of people, they're not for that. I very much like believe in that. And I believe in family businesses. And so that's been a lot of fun.
How does that make you feel to be able to? Because for those of you that know Roberto's background, like he was a graphic designer, he ran into this recession issues. Like he and I actually have a very like similar background story, which I love that we can bond over that. So how does it feel to be able to go from this like frustrating, struggling place to being able to not only do what you want and control your income, your destiny, but also being able to help your family? Like, what is that emotional feeling that money is providing for you?
Don't make me cry. It's a tremendous amount of gratitude for that, and it was hard. There was a lot of very hard, very lean times, and there was a lot of anxiety. I used to like I feel like I look healthier and younger than I did when I was an employee. Gray hairs aside, a little bit thinner hair, but other than that, I feel healthier and I look healthier a lot of times because I feel like when I was an employee, I woke up with chronic stress. A lot of it was money, but also a lot of it was like not feeling in control of everything. And then also just like wondering, like even at that time, it's like, wow, if something happens to me, what happens to my family? What happens to my siblings? What happens to my mom? And not worrying about that anymore, knowing it's like, even now it's like, well, there's a lot of passive income out there. There's the book royalties. I have a great community and I have a hell of a lot of life insurance, God forbid. But I know, like at this point, it's the feeling of that security of just knowing everyone's okay. Everyone's okay. Like it was really interesting to reconcile the idea of like, I worked this hard to finally feel this safe and then trying to really figure out like where to go from there because that was a big motivating driving force behind how hard I worked to build everything. And there were challenges during the pandemic of trying to sort out finding new sources of motivation now that there's not that struggle to overcome anymore.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Like, I know it's not easy as someone who also has had to have those struggles around providing for your family. I know exactly how you feel and through that. Now, with building towards this goal, I'm sure that there were some obstacles along the way that we would love to learn from you from about. So, what for you has been like a really horrible money experience for you from being a YouTuber?
Probably the MCN was probably one of the worst. There actually ended up being a situation with them to where it took me years to get $4,000 of back pay back from them that they owed me. And while that wasn't like, oh, I was desperate for the money, there was just this really deep-sided resentment and anxiety of knowing that I was owed something and knowing that I was taken advantage of when I was younger and naive, and that it then took years and years after the fact to fully like get all of that sorted and all of that reconciled and finally like be made whole on that, because it was more the principle than the money where that was regarded, and the fact that they were jerking me around and pretending that by finally paying me they were doing me some favor and everything, and how like just disingenuous the whole situation was. So that was emotionally very frustrating. It involved money, but the money wasn't the worst part of it. I generally tend to be frugal. It doesn't always seem like it, but like I've invested quite a bit back into like the business, like because the only things I really buy, like I don't really do stuff for myself as much as I put it into things that I know are productive that I'll also enjoy. I do a little bit for myself. I finally, after all these years, bought a PlayStation 5, right? So like with the money stuff, I try not to create situations where things will be bad again if it's in my power, because I just going through so much money trauma and anxiety over the years, it was just something I tried to avoid.
I would love for you to share a money story with us that I'm familiar with, where I feel like it's like this is a smart business move. So I was with you in Florida at Podfest when someone stole your camera equipment. I remember it was like stuff that hadn't even been released yet. It was thousands of dollars. I remember how it really emotionally affected you. But I feel like what you have attached this is a really great lesson of like how to protect yourself as a YouTuber. So can you share that story with us and how you were able to reconcile that?
Yes, I was speaking at Podfest. Me and Desiree were actually on a panel at Podfest, and two of my cameras, and they were new cameras at the time, two of my cameras and two of my professional lenses were stolen. We're talking each camera buy was $2,500, so that's $5,000 there. One of the lenses was a $2,000 plus lens. Another one was a like $1,600 lens. So that's like another like almost $4,000 right there. And then I had the really good memory cards in there. So this was like roughly $10,000 worth of gear, quite literally. And one of the reasons I know that is because that's where the insurance came in. And so it took about a month round tail to get all of the gear restored and everything right back to where I was. But because I had insurance and I was paying my $160 a month for my insurance, liability, errors and omissions, and theft and gear protection for accidents, theft, and loss, I was able to, and I had all my serial numbers, and I always keep all my boxes for all of my gear.
Oh my gosh, the storage. The storage alone sounds really intense.
So, well, I just put them in the top of the closet. It's not that bad. But like, I was able to do that. I was able to go and show all the purchase receipts because I only buy from Amazon and B&H. And I was able to show all the purchase stores to show, yes, I do own this gear. Yes, I really have the gear and it was stolen. And here's the serial numbers. And here's the incident report from the event and the hotel. And here's the police report that I filed. And like, I got all of that in. My insurance people were great. And they cut me a check, direct deposit, and then I rebought my gear.
The reason I think this is important for us to talk about is I think it's really easy for us to get distracted as creators and forgetting to put the things in place to protect us as business owners.
Mm-hmm.
Besides obviously having insurance, and I feel like you have like a specific kind of insurance that you use because I remember you did a follow-up video about it. But what are some of the things that creators need to, YouTubers especially, have to have in place to protect them financially as creators and as business owners?
Get income protection insurance for being self-employed. Get income protection insurance for being self-employed, especially if you also have employees under you. So that's in case, prime example, I lose my voice, I can't talk because I go to the dentist, or I have a car accident, or whatever. It can replace some of the income while I'm incapacitated and can't work. So same thing for if as a result of that, my employees can't work. Oh, well, they get coverage as well. So like, you want to get income protection insurance for being a self-employed person. When you do have people working for you, you want to set up something, payroll and HR dashboard like Gusto. And the reason is you want to make sure that people who are employees, even if they're part-time, are getting W-2s. Your contractors are getting 1099s. It can handle all of that back end. It'll pay taxes for payroll, FICA, all of that. So you're in compliance with the government. You print out all of your compliance things you need so that you are in compliance with state ordinances around being an employer. And that's going to like protect you from the government. And so that's very important. You want to have the insurance, like I talked about. A lot of people call this media insurance. It's mostly just liability, errors, and omissions, and then of course gear protection. So you want that. The company I use is called Hiscox. You can find anybody who can do that for you. Professional Photographers of America is also a good one. They have a very affordable gear policy and everything that could be a little cheaper, especially for a smaller content creator. I do recommend the errors and omissions insurance, though, because that protects you in case something goes wrong with a brand deal contract or a non-disparagement clause, or if you do any type of criticism, reviews, or commentary. That could be important to have that errors, omissions, and liability insurance. Some people refer to that as media insurance. And so $160, I think, in my case, protects you up to $2 million for lawsuits. So that becomes important to have. You want to consider finding something that gives you legal templates for whenever you need to do anything, so that you can have NDAs, you can have this, you can have that. When you do your HR portal, you want to draft a very quick employee handbook. You can find some of them online. Linus Tech Tips is a huge YouTuber with over, I think, 17 million subscribers. The Linus Media Group's employee handbook is out there and has been leaked on the internet. You could borrow a lot of their protocols, and you could kind of throw some of it into Chat GPT and kind of make it your own. And like, then boom, oh, I got an employee handbook. And then you can upload that, make sure all the employees sign off that, yes, I've read the handbook, make sure they sign all the NDAs. And then boom, you have all of your stuff right there and all of your legal protections.
I actually borrowed my handbook from TubeBuddy. Phil, before he sold TubeBuddy, was kind enough to share his handbook with me because it had so many of the same alignments and culture things. I was able to just make minor adjustments and use his as well, which was a really great thing to do. One of the things I'm sure that you're going to get to that I also couldn't rave enough about having a CPA and or accountant who understands your business. And it's a very specific distinction because it's one thing to just have like a CPA and accountant like in your local town or whatever. It's another thing to have someone that understands your business really specifically. My CPA is actually a woman named Devin, and she is the COO of Braille Skateboarding, which is the largest skateboarding brand on YouTube. She's great because she's the one that taught me this. She's like, you need to have someone who's protecting your money, that understands your business. That way, when you have to go to the IRS and explain to them why you have to, write off, 10,000 pounds of marbles for a video, like they can be able to explain that to you because I guess they had to do something like that in a skateboarding video for Braille. So by having someone that understands it, they're able to ask you the really smart, specific questions that you need to know, and so that they can help you with making sure that you are accounting correctly and reporting correctly on your taxes and all that kind of stuff, and hopefully ultimately saving you some money as well.
Yep. And they'll let you know when it's time to go from like LLC to an S corp, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I recently did that too. This is my first year as S corp. It's very weird to be a W-2 employee for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an interesting journey, but yeah, I also would say as far as another money thing is make sure you get yourself incorporated in some way, shape, or form as an LLC, because if something happens to you while you're in the early stages, especially when you're still learning how to do this whole money thing, an LLC can protect you and your family and all of your personal assets, because if you're not protected, they could like come for your home, your car, all that stuff.
Do not make the LC your name or your YouTube channel name. Make it sound something old, stodgy, impressive, and intimidating. Not even joking. And if you can. And then the other thing to do is, for those of you, for privacy reasons, you want to make sure that you either go through a registered agent or that you use a virtual office or the post office address and get a PO box or a UPS store, because you want to register this with not your home address, because that can be looked up. And that's the reason I also say don't use your channel name, don't use your own name, because then it's easier for people to like figure out where you live and all these things if you register that publicly, and then they know and look up your company, that sort of thing.
I have that too. I have a UPS box because it allows for you to have more opportunities. PO boxes have a lot of limitations, even though it might be the more affordable option. A UPS box acts as a physical address. I have my S corp and my other LLCs registered under too, and there's zero problems. And you're going to UPS to do Amazon returns anyway, so it just kind of ties it in to make things a little easier for you. So definitely recommend that.
So yeah, you want to do that. The other thing you want to do is consider, if you use a pseudonym online and you don't use your real name, get a DBA as well, so that in all instances you can sign all contracts as you're doing business as, on top of everything else. And it's another layer of protection. And you can even take all personal checks, all payment processor backend can all be done as the DBA. And so now you have these two layers of privacy protection. And you also want to make sure that all of your online accounts are all done with this, corporation and with this DBA, so that it's not tied to you personally for privacy and protection reasons. Use a Google Voice number, phone number for everything too.
Yeah. All right. So to dive us back into money, a little bit away from the logistics of protecting our money, I'd love to know, was we talked about some like unfortunate situations that have happened with money as a YouTuber. What has been your most successful money situation that you have had to experience as a creator?
Might be that time that I got I think it was like a $40,000 or $50,000 brand deal. That might be a big one for a single campaign. I've had several brand relationships where I've had like a year-long relationship where it's an over $50,000, $60,000 contract. So that's always fun. That's great. Maybe it might be my relationship over the years with TubeBuddy as an affiliate, honestly, because with TubeBuddy as an affiliate since 2016, I've made over $400,000 with them as an affiliate.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's like a long-standing relationship. So that's like, somewhere between 7 and 8 years, doing a substantial amount of money over those years and everything like that. I think it's like 420,000, 450,000, some number like that. I'll let you know when it's $500,000. But it's like, all I know is that for sure it's over 400,000 over the years. That's been a good long-standing financial relationship. I miss Phil, love to the current team and everything like that. But when the founder leaves, it always feels different with a company or with a brand when the founder leaves. It's just like
Mhm.
when Steve Jobs left Apple the first time, it was, it's like,
It's sort of that, like, it's just a new flavor, a new color on the walls, and it's just hard to get used to, I think, a little bit. So one of the things that we love to do here and the Funded YouTubers, we love to break down the income streams that creators have. Now we have this really great pie chart where we have broken down your different income streams into different parts. So the first one that you have obviously is AdSense, which is that comes in at 10%, and you have sponsorships as 30% of your revenue. Who are some of your brand sponsorships, and how have you been able to get those and have such a success with them for so long?
well, like the main one that everyone probably knows at this point is StreamYard and everything. And that's been a great relationship. I was an early adopter. I was actually early paying customer of StreamYard. I've been paying for, and I forget the name of the software I was using before. I was paying like 700 a year for some other streaming software, and like my streams would crash. And it was like software you had to download. Like it was convoluted to get a guest in. It was like, it was really frustrating. And even for a technical person like me, and sometimes the streams would freeze. StreamYard solved everything. StreamYard was the simplest thing and it was great. And so I've had a good relationship with them.
You know I am Team StreamYard. Like, I am their first, like, person that I got to work with them to help them build out their brand partnerships and all of the things. You remember being a part of their beta program and, like, Gage and the CEO just being, like, shocked at, like, what as an artist, how I was able to use their tool and stuff like that. So I know that you have continued to blow them out of the water, as well as some of our other peers as well.
Yeah. So no, that's been great. Recently, Opus Clip that's starting this month actually. So that's great. Not doing something right this moment with Spreadshop, but we've done great stuff with Spreadshop. I have this like really great workshop tutorial thing we did together with one of my live streams. It's like a 3-4 hour live stream on everything you know about merch. I think
Mhm.
that live stream did like over 400,000 views. I think it might be one of the single largest promotions for Spreadshop in existence and everything. So it's a great case study
Mhm.
of a great partnership, and the thing still gets views to this day. I think it's still getting 1,000 views a day right now. Actually,
What do you think the secret is to a good brand sponsorship partnership?
alignment is a big part of it. There has to be alignment between the creator, the brand, and the audience. And so I could probably represent this with like a triangle. And I think that's really important is audience alignment. I also think creator autonomy is very important in that relationship because the creator is there for a reason and they are an advocate for the brand and an advocate for the audience. So it goes both ways.
Mhm.
They can advocate to the brand and say what the perspective of the audience is and even help improve the product or the perception of the product and the brand. And then they can also advocate for the brand with the audience and say, here's a great product. Here's how it solves your use case. Hey, let me make tutorials for you. Or, hey, let me demo this. Or, hey, let me show you how wonderful the community around this brand is, whatever the situation is. So I think that giving the creator more freedom and autonomy instead of restricting them to these bullet points, this, that, next, and the other. Creatives have built their audience on their authenticity. So giving them the autonomy that allows them to maintain their authentic connection with the audience is important. Why compromise that? Brands who understand that and let the creator sit in the driver's seat and communicate to their audience in an authentic way, those are the ones that win. The ones that sit there and they box their creators in and tell them what they can and can't do in a very rigid way and everything like that can't complain about the results they get. So
Yeah.
the because if you knew better than the creator, well, why would you pay them in the first place if you knew better?
Right.
Why don't you have as big of an audience as the creator if you know better?
It's almost like they're trying to control your audience. And I don't think that that's ever a good idea because it's not their audience, it's the creator's audience.
I think that they're not trying to control the audience as much as they are so desperately afraid of the perception of their own brand being outside of their own hands. So I think that control, like relinquishing some of that, I think it's a trust issue. So I think one of the things that works in a relationship is where the creators, like one of the things we were fortunate is we got to work with founders
Yes.
and we got to work with early employees and we got to build those relationships from the ground up and we got to talk with these people, meet these people in person. So the trust is there, you know, and that's a very different relationship than most creators will ever have with a brand that they work with, especially if they work with a megacorp. We got to work with startups and we got to work with founders. And I think that makes a big difference in our perspective in the trust relationship and the freedom that we've been allowed to have.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I never had thought that like that in that kind of angle, and it makes a lot of sense. I also feel like getting to work with brands, it's been interesting to start with founders and startups that sell. A lot of the brand partnerships I have had have sold like Sendable, TubeBuddy, StreamYard. They've all been bought out by bigger companies and some have gone, some relationships have ended, some have transitioned, some are still there. It's just interesting to see how every business and brand does that. Back to our pie chart, we have affiliates at 20%, which we talked bit about with TubeBuddy. We have memberships at 10%, merch at 1%. And you have services on here as well as courses and digital products. What services do you offer, Roberto?
It's coaching.
Coaching?
It's
Okay.
primarily
Awesome.
the one-on-one coaching.
Consulting and speaking. 1% is Amazon and creator programs. And this is the one I always love talking about. And it's a little secret one is syndication, licensing and royalties. Talk to us about that part of your financial journey.
That is the book royalties, and
Mm.
that is like, yeah. So I self-published with Amazon KDP, and I have the 70% royalty contract for that.
Mhm.
So that is where that comes in, and that has been. I can, and the thing is, I have more books coming. So like, this is like, I love this one. This is great.
You have the Audible yet?
It's coming. I'm still working on that. It's all these issues of like needing to rest your voice. It's a lot of work to record an audiobook.
I've done it. You just gotta bust through it. Lots of tea and honey. You can do it. I have a whole like soapbox about how like if you're a creator that people like know you because of your face and your voice, you need to do the audible. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense,
Can't, that's why I can't hire anyone else for it. That's
right?
why I can't. So yeah, the royalties on that, they've been pretty good, and they can be better. And the thing that I should have done that more people should do is when you release something, and I'm still going to do this, especially for the audiobook version, you want to basically make a video sales letter to your audience. And it doesn't have to just be a video titled big announcement. It can be something that like, directly is what your audience wants to watch and click on, but you do fold the big announcement thing like into it, and
Mhm.
that can be really compelling. And then you get to have your audience be aware of this thing that they want them to support. And so you want to do a video sales letter. The other thing you want to do is you kind of like, just like with affiliate too, you want to, with your own products, you should treat it like your own campaign with a brand deal. And you should kind of put together a 12-year marketing plan for your own thing. And you should have like a big video sales layer that's kind of the launch thing. And then you should look at how you're going to have like 6 to 10 supplemental support videos that allow you to promote your product seamlessly as a nice direct integration or shout out. And you should figure out, okay, here's how many of these are direct integrations for my own thing where it's like almost a dedicated video or it like seamlessly folds in. And then here are videos where I just mention my own product and shout it out. And so it's like maybe it's you do half and half, maybe 6 videos shout out your product.
It's almost like sponsoring your own content.
You sponsor your, I believe in that. Like that's actually a really, like what I believe in is like if you're going to make 100 videos in a year, not counting live streams, not counting YouTube shorts, I believe that what you do is you auction off like 60 of the 100 videos to brands. And then the other 40 videos, you use those to promote affiliate links and your own products. And that's that. And that literally out of the 100 videos, all right, I'm promoting either some other person's brand potentially for inventory, my own brand, or affiliate links to things that benefit me and my audience that we would buy anyway. And
Mhm.
that's that. And I don't feel like there's anything wrong with it. It's like, oh, every video is selling something. I'm like, yeah, every video is selling something. Just like every movie sells something, every TV show sells something, every magazine sells something, every radio.
It's not actually free, guys. You actually have to like there's a way to make this happen. If you want me to keep giving you quote unquote free content, yeah, I gotta pay the bills.
And then you have this kind of ad blocker thing that people are crying about. And it's like, oh, I have an ad blocker and then I still have to hear the baked in sponsored ads from the YouTuber. And it's like, yeah, cray baby, because you can't be a freeloader and everything like that. So that's, so I love it. It's like, I'm unapologetically like a bold faced, ruthless capitalist. I love it. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm happy that creators that you consume for $0 up front are getting their money and their coins because you sit there and you pay $20 and get bad popcorn to sit in a movie theater and watch 20 minutes of ads and then still get subliminal product placement marketing and you don't cry about that.
And I love the beginning part of movies. I get mad and I miss the trailers, so I'm here for it. So you gotta know what's coming up, man. Going to the movies is so interesting now because like I remember waiting in like it had to be longer than that. A multi-hour line to see Revenge of the Sith in college for like a midnight show. And like in order to get like a semi-decent seat, and like it was so long. And now you can just like pick your seats and show up like 10 minutes after the quote unquote start time and just like cruise into the movies. This is so like kids these days don't understand how good they've got it.
Well, I pay a little extra to go to Movie Tavern out here. They have a thing called Movie Tavern out here, and you get your own personal seat. It has the seat warmer, recliner, the whole thing,
Same.
and it's
Same.
assigned seating. So it's like I love it. And
Mm.
they have like like food, and you just sit there. It's like being at home. It's like
Yeah, we've entered level bougie, I think for sure. I think it's old people thing. Like we're getting to that like my back, my neck. I need my snacks. I need my drink. You gotta get it.
comforts of home and everything. It better be worth it.
True that. True that. Like if I'm gonna leave my in-home movie theater to go to a movie theater, it better be worth it, right?
Max.
All right. What's your next financial move, Roberto? What are you working on?
Finally, courses. The thing that I haven't done really up until now is the standard $500 course. And the thing is, I've actually been working on my courses in the background behind the scenes for a very, very long time because I have this really bougie quality of me where I want mine to be better than everyone else's. So
Yeah. I love that. So we look forward to seeing those courses from you in the upcoming year. That is for sure. Thank you so much for your time today, for sharing with us your income goals and how you've been able to get here. I really think that's an important path for us to know so we can get there as well. So thank you so much.
yeah, absolutely. Take care, everybody.
The Funded YouTuber is brought to you by GigaStar, a parent company of GigaStar Market, an SEC-registered funding portal and member of FINRA. Learn more at gigastar.io. Music provided by APM Music, unrivaled music to bring your stories to life. Neither GigaStar nor its affiliated companies provide legal, regulatory, financial, or tax advice. Any opinions expressed herein are those of the authors and are the informational purposes only. The information and opinions expressed herein are subject to change without notice and do not take into account the particular investments, objectives, financial situation, or needs of any specific investors.